Hey, I'm Duke on Twitch. If you want to support the channel and greensunzenith.com, you can find my Patreon, merch store, and singles store where you can buy singles through TCG Player or Card Hoarder in the video description. If you want to get in contact, you can also find all that info in the description below for things like donation deck lists or just wanting to reach out. Alright, let's get right into it. Hey, welcome back to Dukes on Twitch. Back today with something pretty special. That Maverick Joe, as a congratulations for hitting 2k subs, has sent me a challenge. And that challenge is to take BANT Maverick to a 5-0 league within my first 5 tries. And if I hit that and get a trophy, I get $300, which is pretty cool. It's not something I've done before. It's obviously a pretty exciting challenge, and it is going to be a little bit tough. BANT Maverick doesn't see too much play, but I think it's very powerful. The color combination is really powerful, and I really enjoy the BANT colors. So this is the list for League number 1. Let's go through it. First up, we have the mana base, and with blue, what I've added in is a Tundra and 2 tropical islands, and that's really it. Some decks I've seen run the 1-in-1 split of Tundra Trop. In a Wasteland meta, I do like having 3. If I play Abzan, I play 2 Bios, 1 Scrubland. So similar things, especially with Uro in the deck. I do want to have multiple duels that tap for blue, and in this case, yeah, I think 22 lands is okay. I would like to play 23, but I think 22 here is fine, which is a choice I've made to put more spells in the deck, which is a pretty obvious decision, but I think the 22 is okay, especially with the Noble Hierarchs and Bird. Noble, of course, in BANT colors is at its strongest. It taps for all 3 colors, which is really nice, but I have cut the 4th for Bird's Paradise, mainly for things like Prismatic Ending, if I do need a 4th color, or just being a flyer. With Mother of Runes in the deck, it's pretty nice at just buying some time against Delver, against Marit Lage. Definitely a few things that can add up. Even something like Exalted in the Air can be really, really powerful. So the blue splash. There's a lot of things you can run in blue. Some of the things that might come to mind are Stifle, Uro, Hull Breacher, Flusterstorm, Meddling Mage, Teferi Time Raveler. There's a lot of really powerful spells, but it's a case of which ones actually kind of work within Maverick. And I think the big one that I kind of did want to play but didn't really find a spot for it was Teferi. Teferi is really powerful, especially for decks that can get it out early on, and with Mana Accelerants we can get it out turn 2. But I think in a deck that doesn't really have that much instant speed, or I guess sorcery speed effects, we can't really make the most of Teferi on our opponent's turn. That most of the time it's just a 3-mana bounce spell that replaces itself, which is pretty cool, but being able to instant speed Green Suns or Prismatic Ending isn't really going to be coming up. I think the better part of Teferi for Maverick is more so that your spells won't be countered, which is pretty great, but I don't think that's really a part of the metagame that Maverick really struggles with and tries to find answers for. I think you kind of just live and die by your things that can get countered. If they don't, that's great. If they do, well, you know, sometimes your opponent gets a 2-4 on themselves. So I think Teferi just didn't fit. And I wanted to have threats in the deck that kind of disrupted. So I've actually gone with Hull Breacher. And I think Hull Breacher is quite nice because we can hold it up as early as turn 2. The deck is, you know, pretty good at doing that. The format is blue, so we're going to run into a lot of, you know, main deck ponders and brainstorms and other cantrips. It is a threat, which is cool. It can be protected by Mother of Runes, which is nice. The mana it makes off the treasures can be sunk into something like Green Suns, or maybe Tireless Tracker in the 75, which is cool. But it does add that disruptive element that I think Maverick really wants from its creatures, and I think Hull Breach is a pretty nice addition, especially just 1 blue and 2. It's going to be pretty easy to cast as well. Stifle's an interesting one as well. Stifle is a card that can make some of your sequencing a little bit awkward, but I do like what Stifle does in the format. And again, it does deny mana, it does deny wins against decks like Storm, and it can just be, yeah, really annoying to play against. We are just running 2. In the list that I forward one with a few months ago now, we were running 3. Not running the full 4 because it's not a card that I really want to see in multiples. But it's tough as well because Stifle's a card that you probably want to see in your opener, so you do want to maximize that. But I think having 2 in the deck is quite nice. There's some synergy in the deck, like you can Stifle your Uro trigger to keep it, which is kind of cool. Or even an Endurance, I guess, if you really wanted to keep Endurance. But yeah, I think 2 starting off with is nice. We'll get to see how much we see it, how often it comes up as being relevant. Really keen to play Stifle. Stifle is a very much my sort of Magic, where it is a taxing effect, but it's in blue, so I didn't get to play with it too much. Here I do, pretty happy with that. 3-3 split with Mum and Thalia. I do really like Mother of Runes right now, but with the new Grixis decks coming out, and the 3 mana enchantment coming into the format where a lot of 1 mana or 1 CMC permanents are kind of irrelevant, it's pretty tough to run the full 4 Mum. So I've got back to 3, and 3 Thalia is pretty nice. I don't always want to see it, but when I do, it's hopefully going to be pretty good. So again, just trying to find space by cutting some of the 4-ofs down to 3s, which shouldn't have too much of an impact. Speaking of that, we are playing 3 Knights, which is kind of against like the sacredness of the deck, but I feel in this version I really wanted to have an Uro in the deck, and it does a similar thing. It is a great way to win the game. It can ramp us, which is nice, allows us to play around with our mana. It gains life, which is relevant. I'm just playing the 1 because it's not a card, again, that I want to see in multiples. I think 1 is enough against the decks where I want it. And it's nice just to have there in the graveyard as like a late game spell if I do kind of run out of gas. So Uro is really nice. 2 Endurance main, 2 Endurance side. I really like this kind of setup. I think Endurance is just a fantastic card overall. There's only some matches where I don't want it, decks like Elves, but against combo like Doomsday or Reanimator, against Delver it's fantastic. Against the control decks it's fine as a 3-4. Just a big fan of it. Skoos I still like. I still like the incremental value of Skoos rather than just the one-off pay of Endurance. Skoos is mainly there for the Life and Loam decks. The kind of more grindy games, like if there's a Hogak deck running around, or even some other graveyard decks, or graveyard synergy decks like Green White Depths, where the life gain is relevant to gain some extra time against the Dark Depths, but also to keep things like Elvish Reclaimer and Opposing Knight of the Reliquary smaller, and keep the ramping up Excavators from being able to get value from their graveyard as well. Liberator. Liberator is an interesting one. It is really good. It does take a bit of time to flip it, which can be awkward, but against the decks where it shines, it really shines. It's nice to also just have a 2-drop in the deck that I'm pretty happy just to go and grab as like an early beater. And Liberator kind of fills that spot, which is cool. It doesn't take the spot though of Collector Oof. I've taken out Knight of Autumn from the main deck in this build. Collector Oof just, yeah, really nice as a deck that can just win game 1s. And it's kind of the reason why I'm trying to play like the main deck Hull Breaches here, is because I think Hull Breacher is a great game stealer. And sometimes when you play a fair deck like Maverick, you just got to have those. You could say Wasteland is a game stealer. You could say Knight is a game stealer. Thalia not so much as what she used to be. But, you know, Endurance could potentially be categorized as a game stealer. But I think that, yeah, if I'm going to play BANT Maverick, I want to have some ways just to have a card that says, you know, oops, I win to some extent. And it's the Hull Breaches and the Collector Oops on the deck that still allow me to do that, which is really nice. And then just 12 non-creatures. We've got 6 removal and 6 kind of consistency spells. 2 Prismatic Endings, 3 Swords, 2 libraries, which I still like. It's quite hard to fit card draw into the deck that isn't as effective as library. It can be hit by ending, but we have so many ending targets in the deck that either our opponent is not going to have the ending for the library, or they're going to use it for the library and then not have it for our threat. So I'm pretty happy to see library in here. I did actually have a build that wasn't playing it, and it just didn't really make sense. It's just so good that it's worth the risk of trading it 1-for-1, because the upside is that you're probably going to be at least a 3-for-1, because these days you're probably paying 8 straight away if you get to untap with it. To the board, Force of Vigor. So, the 8 Mulch decks really scare me, and it was a reason why I was thinking of playing more Force of Vigors, potentially 3 instead of the extra Knight of Autumn. But I think the flexibility of Knight also being a Green Sun's target is just a little bit too hard to drop for the third copy of Force of Vigor. I don't want to play Seeds of Innocence. I could if I really thought that the metagame was going to be 8-cast decks. Especially right now that there is the free token online. There's a lot of people playing decks that they maybe can't afford otherwise or don't have the tickets for. So I'm going to assume there's going to be a lot of Kappa Cannoneers around. But I think that the flexibility of Force of Vigor just far outweighs the benefit of me finding the one-of seed time in games 2 or 3 against 8-cast. That having something, you know, like a turn 0 out to exploration or mana bond is something that I really want. So I think Force here as a 2-of is fine. And the Knight of Autumn is just a really nice way to have a little bit more game through Green Suns, which is cool. Tireless Tracker, I think, is just really well positioned. It plays around Hull Breacher decks because you can draw in their turn. No, you can't. It plays around Narset. It plays around like Spirit of the Labyrinth, which is really nice, which is sort of playing Death and Taxes. And it's just a really good threat for the decks where I don't really want to go for a turn 3 Knight. I kind of want a Green Suns for Tracker and then play a land the same turn, hopefully a fetch land. And it just allows you to keep up with the card draw as well, which is quite nice. Endurance, I said before, fantastic creature. I'm going to say the best green creature printed Sint, Elvish Reclaimer. March of the Otherworldly Light. Now this is a card that I haven't played with yet, but I really wanted to try it out. I did have 2 Path to Exile in the sideboard, mainly for anything from Dragon Rage Channeler to Murktide to Grizzlebrand. But I think March is just really cool here because it obviously trades really well with Urza's Saga at the cost of just 1 white at instant speed. So you can even do it in response to the first Saga trigger, which is pretty cool, so it doesn't even tap for mana. And it just scales really well. Being an X-cast spell, as the game goes on, you can obviously start getting rid of more and more stuff. And at instant speed, that's pretty cool as well. Blast Zone. So the big issue with BANT that I have is go-wide strategies. Decks like Elves without Plague Engineer, or some sort of hate bear like Gaddock Teeg or Containment Priest, it's going to be pretty hard to keep up with Elves. Aethersworn Canonist hasn't seen too much play recently, especially being a 2-drop. I think a lot of players have just gone for Deafening Silence, and of course Deafening Silence doesn't hit creatures. But then you have the situation where Aethersworn Canonist is great against Elves, but it's not great against 8-cast. Deafening Silence, on the other hand, is really good against 8-cast and other Storm combo decks. So having the Silences over Canonist just makes sense, especially being a 1-drop as well. You want that 1 mana combo hate, so Deafening Silence really strong here. But yeah, Blast Zone also just gives me ways to find removal through Green Suns. So Green Suns for Knight, Knight for Blast Zone. It also creates a new avenue for Knight in terms of how powerful it is. It gives me sort of pseudo removal, which is really cool. And yeah, just allows me to clear a board when my opponent might not think I could, which is awesome. Spell Pierce. Spell Pierce is a card that probably hasn't matured too well in Legacy over the past few years. In BANT, you'll most likely see Flusterstorm, but my reasoning for Spell Pierce here is because I want to hit things like Planeswalkers, I want to hit equipment, I want to hit enchantments. And I think in this sort of deck where we have the Stifles, the Thalias, the Wastelands, we can keep our opponents down on mana quite well. So having the Pierces in the sideboard is quite nice because if my opponent storms off and we have the Spell Pierce instead of Fluster, so be it. But being able to hit something like a Jace, there's been some real feel-bad moments where I've had Flusterstorm in hand and my opponent's gone Jace, and I just have to sit there and say that resolves. Like, I can't do anything about this. So, Spell Pierce is definitely on trial. We'll see how it goes. But I think alongside Deafening Silence as well is going to be pretty nice. It kind of makes it uncounterable, which is pretty sweet. But, with Spell Pierce, you also have to make sure that you're playing the game in a way that you'll be able to control your opponent's mana. Because Spell Pierce does get pretty bad pretty quick in terms of how fast decks can just play lands or even, play soul lands. Like, if you're playing against Show and Tell and you kind of think that Spell Pierce is all good because your opponent can only play 1 mana this turn, they play like a City of Traders, well, there's their Spell Pierce mana. So it can definitely come back at you, but I don't mind the choice of Spell Pierce here, and I think it's hopefully going to pay off. And then Deafening Silence. I did have this down at 2, but for a deck like Maverick, where you don't have card manipulation in the early game or cantrips, I just want the 3, because it's a card in any deck that I bring it in against, I want it in my opening hand. And if I can mulligan to 6 and hopefully hit one, then the chances of that is pretty high if I have 3 in the deck. At 2 in the deck, it can get pretty tough. So I really like Deafening Silence as a 3-elf because it's just a card I want to see in my opening hand against the decks where I want it. It's that easy. But yeah, this is config number 1. A huge thank you to Joe and a big shout out to his kids for giving me this challenge. It's a super cool one, and hopefully I can do the deck justice. If you're interested in the deck, you should definitely check out the Maverick Discord, because there is a BANT Maverick section, which is pretty sweet. It's pretty active. You can see deck lists, you can see results, and then just players who like BANT talking about their card choices. Really, really cool. Shout out to the Maverick community. Shout out to Card Hoarder, who actually allowed me to borrow these cards, and obviously support the channel, and to MTG Mate, who is a good friend of the channel, a sponsor since day 1, an Australian online store, and actually yesterday Melbourne announced Eternal Weekend, which is really cool. It's a pretty big weekend event in Melbourne every year, which obviously was hit by COVID, but it's back on the Queen's birthday long weekend. And this year it's pretty sweet because they've gone with Legacy on the Saturday or Sunday, 7-Point Highlander on the other day, and then Modern on the Monday. Usually it's Vintage, but they've moved that to a Friday night event, mainly because of the barrier to entry around pricing. But to see Modern at Eternal Weekend this year is really cool. So if you do want to play in that and you want some singles, definitely check out MTG Mate, because you can get 5% off singles with code DUGS, which is pretty sweet. It supports the channel, helps out an Australian online retailer, which is very cool. Big shout out to Nick and the team. That's it. Let's see how this goes. We'll see you in round 1. Hey team, we're here for round 1. We're on the die roll, which is nice. We have an interesting hand. We have all the mana in the world, which is quite nice. We have protection and ooze. So ooze is a threat that could be relevant, but might not be. I think on the play there is a better hand, especially in a deck with so much mana acceleration. Something like a turn 2 Thalia. This hand just doesn't really have enough. Like if I drew another land, I'm going to be pretty unhappy, especially if my opponent is on a basic heavy deck. And we get a little bit punished here. We have a hand here with no mana, so I'm pretty happy to keep this. And this might be a world where we go, hey, we're at 5 cards. We really just need to kind of get my opponent. And it might be keeping something like this 5, which is tough. I kind of like the swords. This is actually a tough one because I'm thinking towards the Hull Breacher as a way just to stifle our opponent if they're on a blue deck, but I think to play it safe, I think this is the better 5 and kind of hide the blue. I think like turn 1 Noble into turn 2 Mum. Turn 1 Noble just because drawing a 3-drop could be really, really good for us. Or even a 2-drop, then we can double spell as early as turn 2. Something like a turn 1 Noble Hierarch, draw Thalia, play Wasteland, play Thalia around days, Wasteland land. So I think in that case, I'm going to just stay with like a pretty solid Maverick 5. Opponent went to 6 card. Oh no, they kept a 7. Prismatic Vista. Okay. I don't mind a removal spell here because it's 1 less for the Mother of Runes, which is nice. Looks like a prismatic ending. A very slow prismatic ending. There we go. Alright. Green Suns. That's pretty interesting. Just because it scales so well, I'm happy just to go with Mum. Try to get Mum online ASAP. Another ending's really nice. So I'm going to assume this is Jeskai. But I'm not too sure what I want to do with this Green Suns. If I don't draw a land here, I think I just want to ramp. Let's have a quick look at 2. Scavenging Ooze, Outland Liberator, Collector Oof, Script Ranger. Nothing too great here. I think I'd rather hold the Green Suns. I could do something like Noble Hierarch. If they play Teferi Bounce, we can fetch Dryad Arbor and kill the Teferi. I don't mind that. We also get a little bit punished if we don't draw into another land next turn. But then again, if we're not drawing into a land, we're probably drawing into a spell that we can cast. Opponent thinking about potentially forcing this, which is pretty interesting. I like the Noble because it can actually attack as well in case everything goes wrong. But yeah, that 7 was tough. 2 spell, 5 land. Obviously against this deck, that Wasteland wasn't really a spell either, which is tough. And there's the Teferi. Here's a bounce. I'm just going to go and fetch Dryad Arbor now. Okay. Attack Teferi. Didn't really need to play the Noble main phase 1, mainly because of Exalted not really being relevant, but next time we do get to Green Suns, which is quite nice if we keep all our creatures here. It's a pretty big if. Stoneforge. Okay, so this is probably going to be a Jeskai Stoneforge list. And I assume we see Kaldra here. Even if they get Batterskull, I'm happy just to Swords. If they get something like a Jide, it probably means they already have Kaldra in hand. They get Kaldra. Kaldra's tough, because the main way for us to fight Kaldra is by fighting Stoneforge Mystic. We're not playing Tower of the Magistrate or something like Masked Vandal to get rid of Kaldra. We can Prismatic Ending the token, but this game's going to go pretty long, so they can get pretty close to just 7 mana equip attack. Okay, opponent really going after my mana. Which is tough because if this Swords doesn't resolve, we don't have another white Swords to Swords again. Yeah, that's pretty brutal. Do I want to use Green Suns here to find another Noble? I think I do. I think double white next turn could be relevant, especially if we draw something like Thalia. Being able to Swords the Germ and then get in with the Noble's quite nice. Our opponent does have outs as well too, just Kaldra being alone. They can Teferi bounce the Kaldra to the hand, then put it back in with Stoneforge, which is tough. Our opponent fetched there like they have Force Negation as their last card. Or just back to basics. This is going to be really tough. Back to basics really huge in game 1. And just like, yeah, this game has gone pretty terribly. Double ending into like us just not really having a great 5. Something like a Sylvan Library would have been pretty nice, especially after the 2 endings had gone, just to try to draw some cards. I'm going to attack to see if they have like a Hull Breacher in the deck. We do have some nice outs, and our opponent isn't really on a great clock right now, so pretty happy just to play this out. There's obviously a lot on the line as well. Our opponent doesn't know that, but we did just 6, unfortunately, as well, so. Okay. That's kind of tough because we could have had the extra land in this turn to go and get a basic. Forest. 3 cards in hand for opponent is pretty tough. I think I'm going to lose the Cradle here instead of the Wasteland. There's a world where the Cradle no longer taps for mana if they try to get rid of like the Dried Arbor or something. We also have like Outland Liberator into mana to get rid of the back to basics. That's pretty good as well. Interesting, they're putting it in now. Okay. Oh. That's pretty nice if they try to equip. Hopefully they try to equip to the Batterskull and not the Kaldra. They should definitely equip to a Stoneforge Mystic here to diversify their threats. They're not at a position where they like need the extra life. Pretty happy just to Swords in response. Okay, last card's a Force and blue card. Tough. Okay, this is going to be an interesting one. Stoneforge is a big issue, so the marches are nice. I don't mind a Force. I also don't mind a Tracker. The Spell Piercers are interesting as well. The Ramanap is coming out. I don't think like a Wasteland strategy is fine. I don't mind dropping a Knight for Tireless Tracker. I still like the Mana Dorks, but like Terminus and Supreme Verdict are pretty rough, so I could see me dropping a Mana Dork. Collector Oof, they're most likely playing either Jide or some sort of sword, so I still don't mind the Oof. Knight's Endurance as Hull Breaches. Cradle I don't mind dropping here either, which is pretty tough going down to 21 lands. There is a world where I would rather... Actually pretty tough. I think it's actually a Wasteland that I drop here. Mums are fine, swords are fine, stifles are great. Liberator is fine. Thalia is good. Sylvan Libraries are good. Like, is Oof really where I want to be? I think I'd rather have like Knight of Autumn in the deck, because it also deals with back to basics if I really need to. I think this is pretty solid. Spell Pierce is definitely interesting as well, but it's kind of a weird setup to try to find room for Spell Pierce. Interesting hand. It's quite all in on duels, but we do have a few ways to deal with the back to basics, and I think I'm okay keeping this as just a good 7, or at least a 6 with Dryad Arbor. Like, I would probably keep this 6 and bottom the Dryad Arbor if it was a 6. So all right. I could go for basic planes, to be fair. Do I get punished for that? I get a little bit punished if they play a dual land, like a Tundra, and Prismatic Ending the Mum, and then we untap and draw Noble Hierarch. If I have the Savannah route, I can go Noble Hierarch and Wasteland them. I think I just can't play like too scared. No, I am going to go for planes. I think planes is fine with this hand as well. Nothing. Interesting. End step brainstorm. I'd love to see a Stoneforge here. Nice. Some people like remove in response to the trigger. I would definitely not do that, because it gives your opponent so much more information. Like, if I swords there in response to the trigger, they probably get a smaller threat. Fetch land? Green Suns. I don't mind just slamming Tireless Tracker here, but it does get hit a little bit hard by back to basics. What I could do is Green Suns holding up March if I wanted to. Or play Dryad Arbor and Noble. I don't want to be hit by like a Terminus too badly. But I do want to get this Dryad Arbor online ASAP. I'm going to start with Green Suns. This hopefully allows me next turn to play Tireless Tracker and also hold up Clue activation. EE for 1 is also something to consider. Canopy. I'll start with Tracker. Play a land, trigger. Pass. And hope they don't also have some sort of like Hull Breacher combo. But I do feel like maybe a Supreme Verdict coming here. It's just tough because I'm in a position where I kind of just have to extend a little bit to get this threat on board. tough. Yeah, I guess if we slam the Tiles Tracker and then keep the Green Suns for another threat. Maybe that's just how I have to play against a blue-white deck. Sadly, March can't hit Jace, which is pretty brutal. I don't mind drawing a card here. I think I want to keep this to try to get... it's a tough one. We don't have great cards to get, unfortunately. I guess we could get Uro to start. Just a little bit tough with the mana here that we won't be able to get it back like next turn because we have like a plains and a colorless. Could also go for Endurance ourselves and get back the tracker into the deck. I actually don't mind that. Like, this isn't really a matchup where I matter about having lands in my graveyard for Knight of the Reliquary because of things like Bolt just not being that relevant. Because like another Green Suns off the top into Tiles Tracker into like Fetch Land is where I like need to really get back into this game. But I feel it slipping very quickly, if not have already slipped. But yeah, Verdict's a tough one. I was thinking about having Gaddock Teeg in the deck, but maybe for the next league. The kind of nice thing to find like the green side of this is that if we do lose this match, it just makes the rest of the league kind of fun. This. Didn't really need to fetch there, but this is yeah, tough. I don't really see us coming back from this. Maybe it came back to the Green Suns play and going for the mana instead of keeping the Green Suns and just slamming the Tiles Tracker. I think I was just a little bit too scared of back to basics when I shouldn't have been. Like, having the tracker on board is just so good that there isn't really a need for it. That's a card. by fetching there as well, I guess I did want to put in the Script Ranger, but if I had a fetch land here, I could like get Triad Arbor, block the Batterskull, and just keep doing stuff. But like here we can like march the token, but then they're so close to 7 mana anyway that, yeah, it's a pretty tough spot, unfortunately. And definitely tough to go down game 1, but a lot to learn. I think, yeah, just a bit too trigger happy on maybe getting my mana there on the tireless tracker turn. I think that was a big one, because having the green suns there as a backup is quite nice, but yeah, tough to come up against this deck in game 1. Just really well suited to beat a deck like Maverick, where if we overextend, they Supreme Verdict. If we don't, they just have their like one of, you know, Swords to Plowshares and Prismatic Endings. It's a tough one, especially with so many like turn 1 spells. You can't just rely on Mother Runes anymore, because they probably have an answer for the mum. So tough, but let's bounce back from here, and I'll see you in game 2. Hey team, up against Bob. We're on the play, which is really nice. And I don't mind this hand. I think the Collector Oof is nice against combo, and obviously the swords are quite nice against some of the fair decks, so happy to keep this. Not too sure what our opponent is on. And especially right now with the token around, for those of you who don't know what the token is, every now and then on MTGO you can get this token, which pretty much gives you a God account, gives you access to pretty much every card, which for $25 it gives you access to one of the main events, but also during the period up until April 6th, you can just play any deck you really want within leagues, which is really cool. So that's a pretty nice way to get into MTGO if you want to have a play around, which is quite nice. Ah, nice. They said good luck Dukes, which is very cool. So big fan Bob. Love your work. All right, we're gonna go with Toma Noble, but I think with my opponent knowing who we are, they'll probably know what I'm on. But they probably won't expect the blue, which is quite nice. Island, Ponder, okay. This kind of just makes me want to play out the Collector Oof, but we'll see what happens. I could just try to get the card draw going of Uro as well. Island, Ponder. Knight. Knight's also pretty nice here. I don't mind just slamming Knight. I don't think we're in a position where like Island Ponder is enough giveaway that we have to slam the Collector Oof. And, you know, if there's like a show and tell deck, then potentially Knight for Caracas is a line that's worth considering here. I guess maybe I should have thought of Doomsday. Phoenix. Okay. Well, luckily we have double sword. So, very cool deck here. Yeah, opponent gonna get in for a ton. They still have 5 cards as well, which is pretty brutal. Alright. Big yikes. Library. Not really the draw I want when I have this on board. So thankfully we can go like Noble, Sword, trade the Drop away for Cradle, and then play Uro. Force Pitch Days. All right, blue. Cradle. Hero. Nice. This one first. We want to draw first, because if we draw Krakus, that'd be pretty sweet. We don't. We also get to cast Uro next turn, which is pretty sweet. But this is a quick deck. I'm not sure if it actually sides into anything different either. Like if there's a world where we go hard on Graveyard Hate and they have like, say like a Witherbloom command kind of deck. That's a yikes. That's a big yikes. That can buy us a turn. I almost need to get the library down this turn just to dig. Next turn, if we get a next turn. Yeah, I don't think Thalia is doing enough for us here, which is really brutal. I think Deafening Silence is worth it against this kind of list. What if they play like Snuff Out? They chose to not shuffle, so I don't think I'm going to be able to block next turn with Bird. I don't think I can keep the Bird here. Which is pretty sad, but that's life sometimes. No. Just too slow. Okay. I really like the extra endurances. Deafening Silence I don't mind, just to slow down the combo part of it. There could be a world where they side kind of out of it, but I don't think that's where they're going to be. The Stifles I can probably drop in this matchup. The Libraries as well. The Collector Oof. The Marches are interesting. The Marches are definitely interesting. As just extra removal, especially against DRC. I think Ramanap's just a bit too slow, and probably Questing Beast. I think like Outland Liberator potentially as well. Like maybe there's a world where Spell Pierce could be okay, especially on the play. I don't mind the odd Stifle, let's be honest. Who doesn't love a Stifle? I think it's kind of like a whatever card you want, you can keep. This is an okay hand. It's pretty based off the endurance. But the removal isn't that great either. Like, this is where it can be tough with BANT because you have so many good 3-drops that this hand just is like pretty much 3 drops and 2 lands. So I'm going to actually mulligan this. Well, I'm definitely not keeping this, I don't think. Yeah. It's a 1-lander. I think we put back 1 Thalia, 1 Noble. And we have to go for turn 1 Savannah Noble just to try to get like a turn 2 Thalia potentially. Yikes, turn 1 with protection. So even an endurance hand wouldn't stop this if this is a buried alive. Yeah. I think that's just GG. We'll play it out, but I don't think we have anything here. Nine, and then 9. Like, even a swords here isn't great. Yeah, tough. Tough. Cool, though. Cool for my opponent. Can't be too unhappy about that. I mean, we're playing Legacy. This is Legacy. We'll see for round 3. Hey, team. Welcome back. Look, not where I thought it would be, but we're here, and we're going to fight. This is definitely an interesting hand, but it's not really where I want to be. Ah, come on. I really want a hand with, like, you know, turn 1 Noble Hierarch, turn 2 Wasteland Thalia, something like that. I think this is just a hand where, like, all these 3 cards could be irrelevant, and Wastelands, that it's just a little bit too rough. Okay, happy to keep this and bottom the Collector Oof. I'm actually going to go for Trop. No. I was going to say Trop into Green Suns for Dried Arbor, hold up Hull Breacher, but I think just getting the Mum online is better off the Savannah. The next time we have Swords Wasteland, we have Wasteland Green Suns, we have just Green Suns if we want to get an actual Mana Dork. Savannah, okay. I like your style, player. I don't like your style. What are you doing? Alright. I think here I'm happy just to Wasteland and then Green Suns ourselves to build out our mana. Plays around something like Crop Rotation against a Depths deck. Volk Savannah? Okay. Well, come on, fetch land. I really want a blue source now. Not too bad. Not too bad. I think tapping out like this for Thalia and being able to attack is better than holding up Swords to Plowshares. Okay. Thalia's really nice here if it survives because it gives kind of the Hull Breacher a pseudo uncounterability, which is nice. Savannah Volk, some sort of like maybe 4-color like mid-range deck. There is a world where like BANT just plays like 6 Mana Dorks, like a 4-2 split, just so you always have a really nice turn 1 play. Oof. I think it's worth drawing a card here. Just to try to hit my land drop. Not really where I want to be. A little bit greedy there, to be fair, but I think like being able to hit blue would be so good. Jeez, these mana bases. Library. Alright, I get a chance here. Oh, you love to see it. I'll go for Tundra so I have double white as well. Just gonna play this now so it can't be countered. Which does mean they can remove it before the Sylvan Library trigger goes in the stack, but that's life. Oh. Wow. Okay. Oh, they're going to pass with the Flooded Strand open? Interesting. Not too much I can do here with Green Sun, so I'm pretty happy just to pass with Swords and Stifle open here. I'm okay to give them a Saga token here. This is probably okay as well, but if I am going to Swords the token anyway, then... I probably just want to Swords this one right now. Do I care? That's the big question. I don't really think I do. I'd rather try to not spend cards on virtual card advantage of the tokens if I do go after it. Yeah. I think because my plan is most likely attack with both, that I should have just swordsed. I'll let them fetch once. I'll stifle the other fetch. Interesting. I actually don't mind just going for... I was going to say Knight of the Reliquary, because then we can just start going after their mana as well. I don't mind that. This takes at least 2 mana, so I can attack with both here. Oh, but they can block. Oh my gosh. Stupid. Stupid. Really stupid. For some reason I thought this was a 3-3. Yep. Yep. Terrible. Terrible. Grave mistake. Terrible mistake. Terrible. But let's not let it get to us. But turning on this library is pretty huge. I'm not gonna lie. Just one of those things. Like, I know it's a 2-2. I know I have a 3-2 that currently is really good, but I just attacked. Why did I attack? Yep. At least I can laugh at it. You know, it's not something that's going to affect me, which is really good, but just hilarious. Because in my brain was like, don't attack with Hull Breacher. If this has happened to you, definitely tell me in the comments, because I would love to know what sort of situation you had where you said to yourself, I won't do this, and then you just do it. I get to untap with the Knight, which is kind of cool. Oh, we drew another Thalia. Classic. They want to try to make a token. I think in that case we just attack with the Dryad Arbor. And if they make a token to block it, we can just sack the Dryad Arbor to Knight. Otherwise we get in a damage, which is pretty nice. So if they fetch here, I'm pretty happy to respond to the fetch by taking out the Triome. There is a world at 3 life where the Dryad Arbor actually has a lot of merit. It's just being an attacker, but I think when they have Retrofitter in play, it's just a little bit too tough. So how about that attack with the Hull Breacher, hey? Come on, man. Alright. Okay, so they're digging, because if they saw one of the other 2 cards, they would have just taken that. Unless they wanted the extra, the Ponder to then, like, get into Swords to Plowshares range. This feels like a prismatic ending. Wow, they love their prismatic endings. Come on, Thalia number 3. We know you're in there. Wasteland's actually pretty sweet. I'm pretty happy to go after the white source. And then probably go after the green source. Something like a loam off the top would be pretty brutal. I feel like this deck plays Loam for sure. So this is really scary, because they could like Wasteland us and Loam back 3 lands. Wasteland us again. Then we're kind of stuck. Hero is pretty good. Do they have the extra land? They don't. Okay. Sons. They have 4 cards left. Is there a world where I just Green Suns for Ramanap and try to wasteland them out of the game? Let's think about this. I don't mind Green Suns for Ooze. That's pretty cool. Could also go for Collector Oof, that's interesting. It might just be Oof here, to be fair. Now they can't use the Retrofitter. Unless they also have removal. Oof also means they can't like pay 4 life to then find removal for the Knight. They have to have multiple pieces of removal. Yeah. I feel like there's like a few lines that are missing here, especially with like little things like that. Like maybe it is just correct to try to go for green suns for Ramanap, using the knight for mana that turn. Keep denying them green mana. It's tough because they have like there's 7 cards in hand. So like if they get rid of this knight, then we don't really have pressure. That maybe like Ramanap's the card, because like Oof on its own isn't that great. At least Ramanap is also like attacking for 2 and each turn wastelanding. Intuition. Can they find maybe like Bajuka Bog? That doesn't do it because we just... Interesting. Well, you get a Misty. Get a white source. I feel like both times they've swords the creature of mine, I've just drawn it again. Which is pretty funny. Alright, opponent. It's on you. At least now we have some nice outs of like green suns for a exalted creature is pretty cool. I guess they're pretty close to Uro as well. Get back Uro. Draw a card. Like, to be fair, at 3 life or 4 life, like maybe just Scooz is better, because Scooz is kind of collector oof because it kind of turns off Foundry in that we get to just eat creatures and have 2 attackers. So Foundry just creating 1 block every turn doesn't actually do anything. Yikes. Yeah, I think Scooz was probably the better card here. Get back sword. Spellbomb. Interesting. And we drew the Hierarch. That would have been lethal. Classic. Alright. And it all came down to that attack with the Hull Breacher. I think that was probably a line that I probably shouldn't have taken. But look, here we are. At 41 life. Opponent getting an Uro back this turn. No. Interesting. Well, I'm still happy to attack. Maybe they have like an endurance, but they don't have double green. What are you doing, opponent? Okay. I think here I just have to take out the Foundry. It's just so strong. Which sucks because like, so is Library, but once they start getting more than 1 servo token, it's just too good. Yeah, sadly now it's very much over. But yeah, definitely some big decisions by me that didn't go my way. Like maybe going for Ooze is a big one. I'm going to take out the library here because of what it can do with Uro. I feel a hard cast force. No. Okay. Interesting. They're not casting the... I'm not sure what they're doing there with 1 mana up. Oh, they only have 1 green. That's why. Ah, interesting. That's actually hilarious because this becomes a 3/3. Ah, so close. 1, 2, 3. It counts itself. Yeah. Tough. Well. Shadow Spear definitely changes things. Tough, because even like Prismatic Ending here on this, they have the Spell Bomb for the attacking creature. That's pretty strong. I guess now we just pass with Sword Up. This is a really weird game. I wonder if they don't have another green source and they need to find like a loam effect to get it. Speaking of, that's sad. Wasteland, sure. I think I'll just take this and hope to draw into Prismatic Ending to take out this construct and swing in for the win. Close. Uro, taking out Prismatic Ending, Swords to Plowshares, Stifle, 1 Wasteland, 1 Fetch Land. I'll draw first, because if I draw Caracas, that's pretty sweet. No, but we draw the Prismatic Ending. I wonder if they dredge. They do. Force, force, force. Exploration. Wow, okay. A land here would be nice, because then we can attack and also cast Uro in the same turn. Or at least we can, like... ending this. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. No. Swords doesn't do it. Because they tapped off this, but... I'm I don't mind going for birds here, just to build up my mana. Make sure we can play Uro next turn around Wasteland as well. Like, I assume they loam here. They don't. Okay. Here's Uro. Saga, sure. Land. I'm going to use this because there is a basic forest in the deck. I could get basic plains though for the sword. No. Forest. Uro. Draw first. Green Suns. Attack for 2 in the air. The Krakus is tough here. Oh, they're tapping the Krakus? Interesting. They do have another Uro, but this would be nice. So they have Force Negation, of course. Okay. $9.15. They have like a 2-turn clock. It's pretty good. Loan back Wastelands. Okay. Ooze just a little bit too slow. I believe we're just dead here, but we'll take the time. I wonder if they do anything here. I would probably just let this slide and just attack with everything. I am tapped out, just from a time perspective. And there we go. BANT. All right. I really like the Tireless Tracker, the Night of Autumn. I love these. I like the Endurances. I don't mind a Force. I don't think I want 2. Now this is a tough one. Stifles I'm not a big fan of. I kind of like the Marches instead as a way to like go after Urza's Saga. The Mums are great. The Thalias I could see dropping down to like maybe 2. Liberator's fine, Ooze is fine, Scriptbranger's fine. I don't mind going down on a Noble Hierarch. The swords are great. All the endurances are still fine. The knights are fine. A lot of 3-drops. There is a world run with the extra Noble Hierarch just because of this. Questing Beast is still, I think, okay, even though they have come on, chat. I know you know they would help me out. Crackers. It could be a shift, like if we're dealing with sagas with the marches, we don't need so many swords for constructs. And if we're bringing in endurances, we don't really need the swords for Uro either, so I could see like going down on the swords. I just like everything nearly. I think like a Oof again. Oof is quite nice against some of this stuff like Retrofit a Foundry, but we just have so many answers of that post board that I don't think we need it. Maybe like the Force of Vigor we don't need either. Maybe just like 3 endurances is fine. I don't mind that, just to not have too many 3-drops. I'd love to play first. And I don't mind this hand. Just gonna go for Trop. Green Suns for Dryad Arbor. Next turn Knight, and then potentially even Green Suns for Tireless Tracker to then start getting some clues going. Could see like Ensep Swords. No. It's a pretty nice win. Like even a library here wouldn't be the worst. Yeah, like now we get a pretty nice turn. We get to Wasteland them off this. We could even like double Wasteland. Yeah, because what if we just Ramanap? That's pretty interesting. 1, 2, 3. Sack this. I could get a a fetch land here, but I'm just going to go for Savannah as 4. No, I meant to. Yeah, sorry, I totally messed that up. That's okay. We're going to go for Green Suns for Night of Autumn. Nice. Destroy this. And then it's either take out the Savannah or the Trop. I kind of like hitting the Trop because it also hits cantrips. I don't really mind if they Swords the Night here because we have Green Suns for another threat. See what the Ponder does. Chose to not shuffle. Okay. Ooze. That's pretty interesting. Quick think. A lot of little options. I definitely like wastelanding them off the Trop again. Could also go for Cradle and just allow them to get up to 3 mana. That allows me next turn 2 Green Suns without using the Knight, which is pretty cool. I actually don't mind that. Play the Canopy. Like, this isn't too bad. I should have actually used the Cradle in response. Yeah. Let's take out the Misty. The Trop. The Misty. Actually, I'm just going to go after their whole graveyard. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think Tracker here is fine. Yeah. Could go for Ramanap Wasteland, but I think maybe that is just better. Just keep going after their mana. I feel like I'm kind of weaving between different strategies and I'm just not really like focusing on one thing. We're also 6 minutes up, which is pretty nice. Chose to not shuffle. Okay. Caracas. In case they brought in Surgical, I'm not going to eat anything here because they might try to Surgical out Wasteland. Swords on that. Okay. I think now I'm just happy to eat a creature and just get this attack going a little bit stronger. Okay. That's a free spell in a way. I'm just going to pass with Endurance up as well as draw a card. Saga is more than fine. Intuition. Okay. What do they find? Swords? Probably like just the other 3 swords. Yeah. Okay. Happy to put in Endurance. 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm not going to target anyone. And then I'm not going to do anything here, I think. I'm just going to let it slide and draw a card instep. Yeah. Okay. Opponent's down to 4 minutes. And there is going to be a game 3 most likely here. Especially like with Hidden, we have Windswept Heath and Script Ranger. Uro's fine. Okay. I'm going to bring in the extra swords, especially seeing they're on 4 minutes, they're going to be pretty heavy on the just beat down strategy. So maybe that means the extra library isn't great. Maybe the questing beast isn't great. Ways that I don't lose the game, which isn't a great way to play the game. But at the same time, that is just part of MTGO, unfortunately. I could see the extra endurance coming in, but I think the extra Thalia is fine. No. This is a one-lander that I don't want to keep. This is a one-lander that's not great either, but it has a few ways to deal with early creatures and Saga. But I think there's a better 5. An actual, oh my gosh. Alright. 1, 2, 3. That's a big yikes. They chose to shuffle off the Ponder, which is interesting. That makes me just want to wasteland this Tundra. I wouldn't mind seeing an Uro here. It takes a little while to get them online, which is nice. We have Sword as well. I have a Wasteland, which is big. All right, we're in it. Thalia just means here that there's a world where they can't force the swords through Uro. They do have double green here as well. They're going to go for the loam strategy. Okay. I'm not going to attack here. They loam, which is interesting. Definitely block. Tough. Come on, white sauce. All right. Tough. Sadly, no green card. I totally forgot the dried apple is in the bin there, unfortunately. Tough. Oh my gosh, they're at 4 seconds, they're at 3 seconds, they're at 2 seconds. They're at, oh my gosh. Oh no. To be fair, I should have conceded there, but that was a game to be, yeah, I should have conceded there, especially at 0-2, but I just wanted to see how that went, but that is crazy. And to finish 3-2 would be nice, so I definitely don't want to give up halfway through the league. No words. We'll see you for round 4. Hey team, back for round 4, up against Storm Guy is me. I don't mind this hand, especially with Collector Oop in the deck against a guy called Storm Guy is me. I'm pretty happy to keep this. Probably just Savannah into Noble Hierarch and then Collector Oop into Wasteland, hopefully. But Storm decks can be pretty quick, so we might not even get that. Hope you're all doing well as well. It was really cool to hit 2K subs on YouTube recently, so a huge thank you to you, the fans. Chain Lightning. Okay. In that case, Wasteland. Into Green Suns for Dried Arbor. Just to keep building up my mana. And also not give my opponent the ability to like daze this back to their hand if they really want to, by playing the Wasteland first. I feel like if they have another bolt, they just bolt this Dried Arbor to keep going on the, yeah, the mana denial plan. That's actually pretty interesting. I actually kind of like that. Just to like start digging for some sort of removal. It's not the greatest either, so like a daze here isn't bad because like we can't be too aggressive with it either. Ponta chose to shuffle, which is interesting. Huh. I actually like Green Suns for probably Birds of Paradise here. It gives us a blocker against Murktide and allows us to cast Questing Beast next turn. They're just going to force this. Okay. Pitching an expressive iteration, which is pretty nice for us. Another shuffle. Wow, they're stuck on the one lander. Four cards. I think if they had a daze, they would have pitched it to the force. I'm not even going to go for blue here. I'm going to act like we're on green-white. And I'm just going to slam the beast here. I feel like they wouldn't pitch expressive iteration to force if they didn't have to. The read is not there. I don't like a no flip because that most likely means they just get a Murktide this turn. We have some options. At this stage, I don't mind going for Uro. I could also just go for Scrib Ranger, which just blocks these, which isn't that great. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Knight would be a 7/7, which doesn't race too well here. How many creatures do we have? 1, 2, 3. Ooze would be a 5/5. 1, 2, 3. Script range is just terrible if they have another removal spell. I think it might just be Uro, to be fair. Draw into removal, or at least try to draw into removal. Okay. Oh! Oh, 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 oh! Wait, 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 wait. With this on the stack, we can stifle this. Yes! Okay, okay. Nice. Classic. They don't attack either, that's huge. Ooh. Do we attack with the Uro? That's the big question. I don't think we do just yet. I think we wait for the Hull Breacher to try to get some leverage, some card draw. I am going to cast the Hull Breacher here, though. Ooh. Still doesn't change too much. Pretty happy just to Endurance in their turn to keep like a second Murktide off. Oh, no, that actually makes the Murktide even bigger, so I can't do that. So if I Endurance, I probably just do nothing. Perfect. Attack for 8. Oof. That's pretty nice. Because now we can really start trying to dig for lands. Alright, Brainstorm on top, but we have the Hull Breacher out, which is nice. Another Murktide isn't too bad. Still no attacks. Wow. I did not expect that. Huh. We're just gonna pay for those. Nice. Delver be Delver. Okay, Delver. I like the endurances. I like the marches. Oof. Out. Library out. Library's always a tough one. Because I feel like if you're bringing in removal and really having more answers for their threats, then the 1-for-1ing runs out and you really need a way to like recoup some cards, and Library's a great way to do that. So I might keep 1 in just to trial that kind of strategy. I don't think I want the Stifles. Yeah. Blast Zone's actually pretty nice here. I think Blast Zone is better than probably Canopy. Canopy just a little bit awkward. And I might just keep 1 Stifle in. Who doesn't love the 1 Stifle? Ramanap, Hull Breaches, Endurances, Night Zero. Yeah, this is all pretty strong. That Uro into Stifle was chef's kiss. That was a nice one. That's for you, Joe. That's for you. That's what you want to see in a BANT Maverick deck. I'm going to keep this for science. I'm not a big fan of it because it doesn't have green. But once we have green, we have multiple ways to then build out our mana. And currently we actually have like a nice Death and Taxes plan. It is very open to Wasteland, but we're up a game. We're 1-2 in a league. Like, we might as well see how this goes. Like, if my opponent ponders here and then shuffles, there's no way I'm not Wastelanding. Even just to reset the game, I don't mind just going for Wasteland here. Like, if they have to follow up with, like, Island into Delver, at least that's, like, 1 red source that they don't have for Bolt into Mum. All right. This is definitely why we kept the hand. Like, this is just what happens sometimes. Actually, yeah, I shouldn't have discarded here. I should have just gone to like pitch a card to get rid of their graveyard. Really want to keep a Murktide off the field. They do get to iteration though, so pretty tough. Come on, fetch land. I can either go for a creature here or just go for removal. I don't mind removal. All right. Keep stupid hands, get stupid outcomes. We learned from that. On the play, I'm going to bring in the extra Stifle. That's the only change I'm going to make. Beast can also probably come out, let's be honest. I like this hand. I think I'm just going to go Forest into Noble Hierarch, and then next turn hold up Windswept Heath, and then try to get Knight down as a 4/4. There's also a world where I incentivize them to wasteland the Savannah. I don't mind that. Now I could hold up Stifle. They could just think I'm holding up like Swords of Plowshares around Days here. I'm actually going to trade here with a Dryad Arbor. It's a pretty nice trade for us. I think again it's just going to be Windswept. Attack with Noble. Hold up Stifle next turn Knight around Days. Still pretty happy to play around Days here. We have enough time. It's just going to be a Murktide. Maybe just too slow. Maybe I should have just jammed the Knight because I had the Green Suns for a threat. Yeah, I think that's correct. Yeah, because now we're pretty much just dead. Like, Stifle just a dead card here, which is what I don't think Maverick can really... Like, in this matchup, can't really afford that. And that's a tough thing, because, like, Stifle's very Feast or Famine. It can be great, but it can also just sit in your hand for 5 turns. 6. Most likely taking another damage here. Price. Yep. Tough. Not too much to say. We'll see you in the last and try to fight back to a 2-3. Hey team, welcome back against Runcore, who I believe will be on Elves. Runcore, a pretty well-known Elves player. So this should be pretty interesting. This is definitely not a great matchup, especially for BANT. The hull breaches can be okay, but not having something like Plague Engineer is really going to hurt. So yeah, this is going to be a tough one. And I think this is kind of the hand that we have to keep. Like, turn 1 interaction, Stifle can be great. Hull breach could get there. Collect Oof, pretty rough. But happy to see where it goes. The tough thing as well is, like, you want to keep Prismatic Ending for the big 1-drops, like Wirewood or Nettle Sentinel, but if you don't have those on turn 1, then it can be pretty tough. You don't want to, like, Time Walk yourself as well. Okay, so now we can go, like, Plains into Mum, potentially. Or hold up Stifle. I think getting Mum online is fine, and maybe the world is, like, stifling the Cradlehoof trigger. I don't think Wasteland here is great, but it's actually a tough one. Wasteland puts up behind. I think I'm just going to go with the Mum. Oh, okay. Second Mum path with Stifle open. At least if they play Cradle this turn, we do have the Wasteland for it, which is nice. Yikes. Yeah, see, this is the setup where it's just a little bit too slow. There's not really one thing we can hit to take them off a lot of things. Like, we can hit the Cradle. In this case, it's really just hit a Wirewood. They do have 6 cards in hand as well. I was going to stifle that, but I think there's better things to stifle. It's just tough as well, because, like, there's not really an out to draw here. Like, this is probably best case, and even here, where, like, we're just going to lose to a go wide. Like, a land is something. It does mean we can hull breach. But not looking great, especially with Allosaurus Shepherd. Glimpse is fine. Because we get, I guess here we get to just stop it from with Hull Breacher. Go for Tundra. But I feel like here I'm making game actions that really are irrelevant. Like, we're just going to see probably like an end step Reclaimer for Cradle, untap, Allosaurus Shepherd, attack with everything. This is most likely Grist. Yeah, 2 mana, Reclaimer, Cradle, Allosaurus Shepherd, win. All right. Tough for sure. March, I think I will bring in the spell pieces on the play. Blast. It's probably it. Collector Oof, Outland Liberator. Stifles are fine. Caracas can most likely come out. Endurances. Yeah. Scoos is probably the weakest here. Script Range is also like pretty meh, but can be okay with like untapping creatures. It might just be... It could just be a Knight, to be fair. I think Knight's like one of the worst of threats, because at least the other ones do a little bit more than just what Knight does. Not a big fan of this hand. Like, turn 1 Mum. We don't have blue mana. Yeah. This is just one of those hands where it's like, it doesn't really do anything. Like, we have mana, which is kind of nice, but that's really it. We don't have, like, Wasteland with Ramanap. Stifle by itself isn't that great. Like, are we just trying to, like, Windswept, Trop, Stifle, Fetch? I think it's a better 5, especially with, like, a Sylvan Library hand. This isn't it, but we can't really go lower. I just really wanted a hand with removal, and we didn't get one. Or at least like a solid hand that had a plan as well. Engineered Explosives is a card that I was considering for the sideboard. You can't find it, which is why I liked bringing in the Blast Zones, but here it's pretty tough. Like, the Green Suns here just don't do a lot at 2 mana, which is really awkward. That's why, like, Gaddock Teeg would have been actually pretty nice in this matchup. So if we go for Green Suns here, the next turn we can go for a 3-drop, which is quite nice. I will go for another Noble. Hold up Spell Pierce. Like, Leovold would be okay, I guess, if you want to splash black, but I do want to keep it just BANT colors. I don't want to splash like a 4-color version. Also, we are 2-2 at the moment. Kind of feel like they're just going towards natural order potentially. So like a land here wouldn't be too bad. It means we can Green Suns and hold up Spell Pierce. Isn't really a bad draw other than like another Mana Dork. Or Skoos. Those are the two cards that I don't really want to hit. Oh, we could just draw that. That's pretty good because that also gives us access to Blast Zone. Which is pretty bad for us, but I think that's okay. Looks like they might just be going for a Cradle start. Like Cradle into Natural Order, which plays around Spell Pierce. Or just like Shepherd into Cradle into Natural Order. Okay. I think I just have to hold up Blast Zone here. So see what they want to do first with Reclaimer, probably turning Besiju into a Cradle. Not great by all means. They have 2 cards. At least they didn't have the land here. I'm pretty happy to just Spell Pierce this. They probably would have got Grist there. Pretty happy to take them off the Cradle. And then next turn we can maybe Library, potentially. another Cradle. Yikes. Yeah. I don't think we have a comeback from that, really. Once the Grist gets going, like, we could like draw a land and get library on, but then it's just the 1/1s are going to take over, so tough. Let's go back to the deck. Nice, it's all worked out. Okay. A little bit fair. A little bit fair. I think the tracker, in this case, I like main deck. I think the Hull Breaches and the Stifles, I think Stifle's just a card that I don't think Maverick can play in a great way, because unlike decks with Ponder and Brainstorm, you don't have ways to get rid of them if you don't want them. You just have to hold them in this case. And there's a lot of matchups here where I'd rather just have a new card. Like Stifle in our hand was just pretty brutal, and I don't think Maverick as just a fair deck can really have that as a game plan. You really need cards that do something. Like, it's worth enough when you play, you know, against like Tess or Ant, and you have things like Swords to Plowshares in hand. Prismatic Ending, not too bad, because you can hit like an LED or a Wish Claw if your opponent's playing around Thalia, but I think that does make room for the Hull Breaches. I do like the Mana Dorks. I think there's a lot of room there. I don't think like this card, what's it called? Hitsugu, Consumes All. I don't think that's like a card to play around by like having less than, you know, X amount of 1-drops. I think getting to 3 mana is really, really good in this deck, so I don't mind taking out the Stifles there and putting in like 1 more Mana Dork and the Tireless Tracker as like night number 4, and then also having Uro is quite nice for card draw. Like Elves isn't really a deck that I'm just gonna like put too much work into, because it is just one of those like 80-20 kind of matchups for a deck like BANT. I don't mind Teeg. Like, seeing what we played against tonight, I think Teeg is still a relevant hate bear. Not the most relevant, but still okay. March was... I think I'd rather just Path to Exile, let's be honest. Like, there's little things like you can deal with Saga, but we have so many ways to deal with Saga already that I think Path is just going to be a bit of a better card. And a little bit more reliant. It is tougher on like the early games against like a Mother of Runes or like an Elves deck by giving them mana, but I think this is looking a bit better. I still like the Spell Piercers, but there's a world where it's better just to play Fluster and then have like 2 Flusters and 1 extra. I believe I have 2 Flusters. Yeah. Like 1 extra card, like an Engineered Explosives. I don't mind that. Like 1 Engineered and 1 Blast Zone is kind of cool. Now this is looking pretty nice. I still, yeah, I do like the hulls. But like, that's definitely a flex. It could be anything. Not too sure. There were a few games there that felt pretty nice. There were some pretty like tricky hands that just weren't keepable, so you know, starting a game with 4 cards in hand against an opponent on 7 is not a great feeling, but this deck does have a few ways to draw back into it, which is nice. I would like to maybe try out a BANT version with Stoneforge Mystic, but I would probably want to play like the 4-mum version if I was going to play Stoneforge Mystic, because if I'm playing Stoneforge, I'm definitely playing Kuldra, because I think that card just beats some decks, which is really nice. But yeah, unfortunately the first part of this challenge, you know, went okay from like a learning experience. Like, just little things, like we had that big discussion about Tireless Tracker and green sunning for a creature to get extra mana before playing it and not just slamming it, and going a little bit more all in on the tracker. Sequencing as well. Yeah, always things to learn. But a huge thank you to you guys for coming and watching. I'll be back with part 2 probably in 2 weeks. Got to be away for work next week, so won't get back till the weekend. So most likely next Sunday I'll have part 2 up, but probably something similar to this list we're seeing now in front of us. But until then, thank you very much. If you like this content, definitely consider subscribing. If you have a comment about the deck, definitely leave one below. Definitely happy to read all feedback and what recommendations you have. And yeah, see where your head's at. Enjoy your weekends. Catch you next time.